I'm here. Let's go. I'm bored. Let's go. Kudos to anybody who gets that reference. I want to take his face. Oh, why do I have face off on the brain? Anyway, Maximum News, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Good to be with you again. And in proper fidelity, I am your host, as always, your friendly neighborhood Simpsons kin, Max Derrat, and I'm joined, as always, by...
Sybsidian of the Triple S League. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, that wasn't, just be directing you to speak. Thank you for following up on that. How you doing, man?
Good. We've had a bit of a break, which is nice. So we were out at a convention last week, and we decided to blow the rest of it off and go to the zoo. Nice. And I got the most gorgeous picture of the most gorgeous animal there. It was great. I showed it immediately to Mooney, and then Mooney said, "Stop it," because it was a picture of her.
Oh, that's not the story you told me before the show. You told me you jumped into the Komodo dragon pen and you had it kiss your face, and you got a picture of that.
Yeah. You know, it was one of the funnier things of being at the zoo. We were at the zoo, and Mooney just kind of rolls her eyes, and she's like, "So far, I've seen you pet a squirrel, have a bird land in your palm of your hand, and they're just regular animals that are around here all the time." And I'm like, "Yeah, because they speak the language. The other ones here, they all don't they're all foreigners. They have no idea what I'm saying."
Wait, what? You have birds and squirrels coming up to you, and there's no problem?
Yeah, no, it doesn't everybody have that?
Dude,
actually, no. I know I'm a total animal whisperer. Like it's kind of crazy, yeah. But yeah, I get that. That's not an abnormal thing to happen to me or Mooney for that matter either.
Yeah, I've had people point out to me that I have some weird attraction to both babies, dogs, and cats. They all seem to love me for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But for my entire life, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm 6'4", that might have something to do with it. Anytime I try to get near a squirrel or a bird, they all just run away from me. But you're really tall, aren't you? Like, why? What unique shamanistic whispering technique do you have? I want to, pet.
I think it's the tone. So I have like a dozen stories of like meeting like crazy wildlife. Like I had a one-sided conversation with a cougar once when I was like very young, and it was a that's a whole story. Like there's a whole like hour-long story behind that thing.
By cougar you mean an actual cougar?
Like an actual cougar, yeah. Okay. Like an actual like mountain lion. And yeah, and it had been killing some animals in and around our area for a while, but yeah, I just had a conversation with it one night and then it buggered off. So yeah, it's like that. I've had a wolf come up to me out like when we were camping, and like just very like non-aggressively just like come and sit down like near me. And yeah, it was kind of weird. It's like these are things that I would never ever like tell anybody else to try, but it's what happens when I'm on animals for some weird reason.
That would scare the crap out of me.
Yeah,
a wolf just sitting outside your tent.
Oh no, I wasn't out in a tent. I was literally like sitting. I didn't even have a fire. I was just sitting down on the ground, and he just walks over and he's just like, she's just like, "Hi, like, why are you here? I don't see your kind out here very much." Mm-hmm. And yeah, I gave her some bit of food and like not much, like literally like a tiny little scrap, and then she just watched me for a little while longer and then buggered off. It was a very surreal situation. But when I was really young, we went to the zoo. I was like 2 or 3, mm-hmm. And I somehow got in the cage with the wild boars, and my dad had a heart attack, and he reached over, he grabbed me, pulled me up. But yeah, anyways, weird stories. How about some gaming stories? We got some weird gaming stories.
You should have been a vet, man. But anyway, gaming. I don't know how to transition out of that. Wolves are noble animals. The Aleuts revere them as honorable cousins, as Solid Snake would say. There you go. There's your transition. But we're not talking about Metal Gear. Let's talk about Fallout for once. A whole bunch of... I guess it was like a Fallout anniversary this past week. I think. Or am I getting that wrong?
So it was the so it's not necessarily like a hard anniversary. It's the day essentially that the bombs dropped,
Ah, I see.
and in the story. And so what they've been doing, what Bethesda's been doing, is they've been trying to capitalize on it, like an actual day, right? Like sort of like, any of the days that are associated with big gaming brands, like the N7 day and that kind of stuff.
April
Which
30th for Metal Gear.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but they had a live stream, and then they showcased an actual parade, and then they had a fundraiser for a charity. Um, this is not great. It wasn't amazing. It didn't have like some big announcement a lot of people were hoping for. I was hoping for an announcement, but I kind of was like, I would really like this announcement to come. And if I were running the company or advising the company, it like this announcement would have come ages ago, like just straight up ages ago. There's absolutely zero reason for them to take so long to release more Fallout content, especially after the show did so bloody well.
Mhm.
And I know that they're in a higher mode, but they're not rushing as fast as obviously as like most of the fans would like. But they did, and most of their stuff was all about, it was all revolving around Fallout 76, and then that was about it.
Yeah.
And it's good in the sense that um, Fallout 76 is now a proper, like, big name in the MMO sphere, essentially, like the big multiplayer games that you
Yeah.
play with other people. It has for sure gotten there. They're upping what they're doing. Before, they've always had just open world content with, like, events that just happen over and over and again. And if you played any games that are kind of like in that genre of like kind of like the Rust type things, it's very easy. It's very similar. It's very samey. But they're now launching an actual dungeon that
Hmm.
is a do or die dungeon. So you don't back out of the dungeon if you don't succeed. No, you just die. So I thought that was kind of a cool tweak on it. It's like you actually go in there with your buddies, and then you guys either kill it or you don't, and or you die. And it's like that's kind of cool. It's not permadeath. It's just
You just
whatever.
can't do the dungeon again?
No. You can do it you can just queue for it over and over and over again.
Oh.
But it's the mode of like there's no like backing out or like doing a boss or two and then calling quits. It's like, no, you go in there and then you fight till you die. And it's like, okay, that's an
Oh.
interesting take
Gotcha.
on it. It's different, right?
Mhm.
And that's really what they're pushing, is they're pushing something that is different. And the amount of updates it's getting is absolutely huge. Like there's more than 3 studios working on this now, and they're all doing amazingly good jobs.
Oh. Like, so ZeniMax and who else?
Sorry, I had to cough. What?
ZeniMax and who else? Like, who are the other two studios working on it?
Bethesda ZeniMax doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 3 of the studios that are under Bethesda's wing are basically like now Microsoft, but it's from the old studios. And one of the studios was actually built by a lot of modders.
Hmm.
Like they didn't build the studio. Bethesda built the studio, and then they recruited all the modders and said, "Hey, you guys make really good stuff. Come make really good stuff full time."
Yeah.
And essentially, they've kind of soft announced this like really long, like they have a long plan for 76. They plan to be supporting that game probably, I would say, probably for the next decade. I don't think it's going to be replaced anytime soon.
Mhm.
I think that the games that they do have coming out are a lot of single player stuff. They're not really aiming for any like PvP focused games. But we'll see kind of where that goes and just kind of what the feel that we're getting is we're getting potentially like the remakes are getting like quite loud. Um, no definitive proof yet, but they are getting quite loud. There's been some leaks, of course, but yeah, it's
That's gonna happen.
yeah, it's gonna happen.
It has to, because like Fallout is Microsoft's golden child right now. I mean, Halo's
Yeah,
not really doing it anymore, unfortunately. And
yeah,
they had good success with the TV show. And 76 is really like, obviously you have Skyrim, which people still play in droves to this day. But that game came out 13 years ago. Fallout 76 is sort of the most recent thing. And even then, it's like, I'm looking at the Steam charts for Fallout 76. 24-hour peak, 15,000. That's good. That's fine. But
most of the players are on Xbox.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
So maybe
that's
yeah, around
yeah, that's where they
40.
get the majority from. They did announce that they've now had over 20 million people play it for
Really?
like significant amount of time, and because there's not really,
Wait, 20
it's not re-
million?
yeah,
That
yeah,
sounds a little
it's
bit high.
um the numbers, as I've been told from the Xbox side, has always been very high. And that is why they never, like, even at launch, they never dropped it, because there were a lot of people playing it on Xbox. And I mean, this is, they dropped Halo before they dropped 76, obviously, because 76 is still running. The support for Halo is not. So the amount of like the amount of interest that Microsoft sees going into this is obviously quite, like, it's obviously there.
Okay.
So it is very interesting. It's, I would say that it's very I'd say that it's very likely that we're going to see, like, probably a good 10 years of like solid content for this game.
Hmm.
And I think that's good. Obviously, it's not exactly what everybody wants, but I'm excited to see them move in more of this direction, because that just means that they are opening up more avenues for directions for the story, for the content, cementing more of the events that happen in the world. And it's like, that makes me excited. I think, and this is what I want everybody to take away from the Fallout event that happened. It's like the first Xbox event that they had, not like the very first one, but the, the bi-yearly, like, like the PlayStation State of Play, essentially.
Hmm.
That when Microsoft first started to do that, the first one wasn't very good. It was sort of like blah. That's exactly what happened here. First one wasn't very good. It was sort of blah. But now that it's on their actual roadmap, and they're actually going to come back to this every single year, and they're going to be doing a big event every single year, it's only going to get bigger.
Hmm.
Like, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And they even called out the Good Springs, in Nevada. There's a town called Good Springs,
Oh,
and that's
really?
what the town in Fallout New Vegas is called, right? And people actually gather there. There's actually a big like thing that's there, and they actually had people there doing a celebration while they were doing this. So it's like,
That's so
oh,
cool. I never knew
yeah,
that. That's so
yeah. So
cool.
it's, yeah. So the I think what we're seeing is that Microsoft is valuing this thing, but they're not. They didn't rush anything out. They're right now. I think they're trying to triple down on quality and get stuff out, because there's a very good chance that the Fallout universe is going to become the primary IP that backs Microsoft
Yeah,
and
it
Xbox.
will.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep. And
yeah,
I understand they
and
want to. That's the direction that they want to go. It's quite obvious that
mhm.
that's the direction that they want to go. I do think, though, given the way things are, like the discussion surrounding Bethesda right now, as you said, Saib, it would be a good idea to maybe take advantage of some of the hype surrounding the IP right now to just say, hey, we got the Fallout 3 or the Fallout New Vegas remaster coming, or we got a Fallout 1 and 2 remake. I don't think they're doing one or two remakes. At best, they might be doing a remaster, but I might be wrong. But just to announce something like that. Now, I know that's sort of not Todd Howard and Bethesda's style, but and that's fine if you want to just do that for Elder Scrolls 6, even though that would piss me off personally. I get it. It's fine. That's what you've always done. But at the moment, it just makes sense to sort of try and change the narrative right now and to lean into that IP and just say, hey, we're working on this. And then maybe just don't say anything else until you got something really good to show. Kind of like what they did with Perfect Dark. Hopefully, it won't be as
Right.
long as as it was with Perfect Dark, but it maybe
Hmm.
shouldn't be. It's not like you're making a whole new game. But yeah. Anyway, hopefully, do we have like what? Didn't we get news like a week or two ago about when shooting for season 2 of Fallout was going to start?
It started. This was part of the pre-announcements before the event. The filming started about this time last week.
Okay.
And that was like made by several people who were kind of lobies in the things, like, hey, going back to film the second season, great, like stuff that wasn't like super official. And then there were other actors that came out and said, confirmed, yes, we are starting to shoot the second season. People kind of saw, like, obviously there was, the unions were mobilizing their the actual crew that's involved in this stuff, out to start working on that. So yeah, that was good.
So here's my
And it's
prediction based on that, and thank you for providing that. So they started just recently. I imagine it's going to be about a year before we get to season 2 of Fallout. Probably come out fall 2025. Maybe sometime, maybe around the E3, quote unquote E3 period of like June. We'll hear news regarding Fallout. Maybe like a trailer for the TV show, maybe a teaser of some projects that they're working on, just to
Mhm.
sort of build that hype back up again and to try and keep the gravy train rolling for an extended period of time. That seems to make the most sense to me because it's like there's just been so many rumors surrounding like stuff regarding the old Fallout games. There has to be something coming. They would be idiots to not do anything. They would be idiots to what, like, at best Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come out in Starfield came out last year, 2027, and then what? We're going to wait until 2030, 2031 for Fallout 5. Yeah, no, they got to be working on something faster than that. Anyway, um, yeah, a little bit disappointing, but I mean, the future for Fallout
Yeah.
does seem pretty bright. So
I
whatever.
would say, yeah, I'd say for sure 100%. And I'm seeing a lot of like really weird like news articles making up, in some cases just literally making up BS. So
Hmm.
don't pay attention to much of that stuff. Bethesda runs a pretty tight ship, and everybody knows and has been told that this is the new like big IP, that this is the game that is going to really change the way that Microsoft works. And it's not just one game, it's several of them.
Yep.
And they're going to hit the ground. They understand that the RPG roots are there. There's lots of things going on, and they seem to have the studios for it. So fingers crossed it's not screwed up.
Right. Yeah. Well, I like to think that it should be pretty easy. I made this analogy with Metal Gear Solid Delta. It should be a pretty easy win to just take a game like Fallout New Vegas, especially with the release of the new season. Um, that they could take something like that and then just remake it, give better controls, better feeling combat, that sort of stuff, better graphics. That is an easy win, and people will love you for it. Just do something like that and then use it as a way to put something out like that while you have more time to work on bigger, more substantial projects. Anyway, guys, what did you think about the Fallout Day news? Do you have any thoughts about the direction that the Fallout IP is headed in? Do you have any worries? We would love to hear from you in the comment section below, whatever your thoughts are. All right, moving on to the next story while staying on the importance of video game IP. Cy, there was a period of about 20 or 30 years where, you know, there were sort of three guaranteed truths in life that we all had to come to accept, right? One is death, second is taxes, and the third is all video game adaptations suck. Because, aside from your guilty pleasures like Mortal Kombat, the original one, they weren't very good. But over the last few years, we've had not just a handful of decent ones. We've had some really, really excellent, solid adaptations. The aforementioned Fallout. I think you could put that out there with probably the greatest adaptations that we've had from the video game genre, right up there with like Obviously, Arcane. Oh God, I gotta finish. I gotta rewatch season one. That just reminds me. The
Hmm.
Last of Us season one, Castlevania, and I also just finished watching the Nier Automata anime, which was good. I have some problems with it, but it was good. Um, but naturally, video, movie production studios, TV production studios are starting to see the multimedia potential of taking video game IPs and doing TV and movie adaptations to sort of, milk the IPs for all the money that they're worth. And obviously, one that we heard about a couple of years ago that was announced that seems to make sense is God of War. This was announced by Amazon back in December of 2022 that we were going to get a God of War TV show. It was around the time that Ragnarok came out. And they had originally hired on Rafe Judkins as the showrunner, who, in case you guys don't know him, he also did The Wheel of Time for Amazon. Yeah, I think that was also Amazon. They also had the producers from The Expanse, Hawk Ostby and Mark Fergus on it. Well, we just found out this past week that they all left the project, which is weird because according to Deadline, who broke the story, and they're, as reputable as you can get when it comes to these trades, they said that all three had delivered multiple scripts to Sony and Prime Video, and those executives were pretty happy with what they got. But apparently, the reason why they all left is because the heads of the project were like, nah, we're going to take a different creative direction. I don't know what that means. Like, maybe, I just speculate that because maybe some of the fan response to the Wheel of Time wasn't particularly good. I know there are some people that like the show, but there are a lot of people that really like the books that sort of responded to it in the same way that a lot of people that are huge fans of J.R.R. Tolkien lore responded to the Rings of Power. So maybe yeah, we're gonna try and avoid that. Maybe they were trying to do something like that with God of War, and now they're probably going to give us a more faithful adaptation. Well, if that's the case, that's good news. But there's even better news on top of that side. They have a new showrunner for the God of War TV show, and it's Ronald D. Moore. Now, for people who don't know who he is probably most famous for the work that he's done on the Star Trek franchise. He did 27 episodes as a writer, script editor, and producer for Star Trek The Next Generation, 30 episodes as a writer and co-executive producer for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But more importantly, I would say, is that he did 73 episodes as a developer, writer, and executive producer for Battlestar Galactica. Now, Saib, here's the thing. I've never watched any of these shows, but everything I've ever heard about them...
Wait. You've never watched Deep Space Nine?
No, I never have. I've never watched any Star... I know. Like, everything I've ever heard about The Next Generation, it sounds like it would be, my all-time favorite show. I know. I've never gotten around to watching it. Same thing with Battlestar Galactica. These three shows... Well, maybe, I don't know about Deep Space Nine, but I know for a fact that The Next Generation and Battlestar Galactica are heralded by the general TV viewing population as some of the greatest TV shows of all time. Right? So, hearing that this guy got attached to God of War makes me feel hella confident. It makes me feel so... it makes me feel like you going up to that girl you like and her telling you, hell no, confident. And this is going to turn out really well. I'm curious about you, though, Simon. I know that you're a huge Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Next Generation fan. I don't know if you ever saw Battlestar Galactica.
Actually, Next Generation's not my favorite sci-fi. It's it's at the bottom of the list. There's lots of characters that I think are stellar. Like Miles O'Brien is brilliant. Okay. I like Worf. Obviously, he's super cool. I don't like some of the way that Next Generation played in some of the writing. It's not my favorite sci-fi. It's down bottom top 15. It's really not high up.
Gotcha.
But Deep Space Nine is as standalones probably one.
Okay.
Top, yeah. So this is great news because the writing did improve over the Star Trek. Star Trek, it's been around for ages. Obviously, I mean, original Star Trek, not my favorite because it's so campy, it's so dumb, it's got so
Sure. It's very much of its time.
yeah, it's very much of its time. Didn't age as well. It's still got a lot of good stuff in it, like really does. And of course, each series, like each of the shows, had like the first 2 years were really really rough. Like the first year of Next Generation was god awful in some cases. Um, First year of Deep Space Nine was absolutely atrocious. It was like really terrible. Would have been canceled immediately, but over time the show gets better and better and better and better, and that's why the sci-fi needs like time to cook. Like you can't just order one season and expect it to be great. It's like, no, you got to stick with it. I'm really excited for Resident Alien because they're doing a lot of changes to that show now that it's changed hands, and I think it'll end up being really really good. Alan Tudyk is amazing, and strangely in so many sci-fi shows that I absolutely love. But yeah, no, this is good news. I'm very happy with this. This is potentially great.
Yeah, I also wonder, like, maybe one of the changes that they're making. Do you think? Because we originally heard that they're just going to do what the 2018 God of War game did, where they went beyond Kratos's exploits in mythological Greece, and then went.
Mm.
I don't know. He went into the mountains, and they did all the Norse mythology stuff. Do you think that there's a chance that they just forgo all the new stuff and go back to the original?
Mm,
Or do you think that's just too far back in the past, and that's sort of like this is where sort of the popular God of War is right now?
no, well, I mean, I don't see them doing anything other than Greek, Roman, and
Norse.
Norse pantheons right now. I really don't expect them to go, hey, we're going to go to India. It's like,
That'd be
eh,
cool. I'd be down for that,
that would
but
it would be cool, but not as I think not as sellable, right?
mm. It'd sort of be like
So
I,
yeah,
I don't know, like what that one offshoot of Devil May Cry did. It was cool, but that's not what they should have done because a lot of people
right,
were mad. Right.
right. So I would say for sure it is a good idea. It's a good concept for them to stay with what they've got with what made it popular, and then basically from there we'll see kind of what comes. And I think that there's some good good concept stuff that can make it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pumped for it. I still need to get back and finish. Dude, I've tried to play the first God of War twice. Like by first, I mean 2018 God of War, and it's such a good game. It's just so freaking long, and I can't get through the damn thing. Anyway, I will before this TV show comes out. Trust me, because I don't know how much longer I can go on the internet without seeing any God of War 2 spoilers. Ragnarok, I mean. All right, let's move on from that. I lost my list. Here we go. All right. So, Spider-Man. Let's talk about Spider-Man. We got a little bit of news this past week. A little bit of good news, but a lot of bad news. The piece of good news is that Spider-Man 2, the most recent Spider-Man 2, not like 2004 Spider-Man 2 with Doctor Octopus, the one that came out last year. It's coming to PC in January, which is cool. Not only does it set a precedent that games that are released on PlayStation are getting PC releases much sooner than we tend to expect. I really want to play that game on PC because it is sort of limited a little bit by the baseline PS5's technology. I was able to play some of Spider-Man 2, but I did it at fidelity 30 frames per second, but I also had the hertz boosted up to 40 frames. But still, I want that solid 60 frames, and I want to see how good Manhattan looks at that 1440p 60 frames per second ray tracing, baby. So that makes me really happy. And it's coming out in January, so we don't have to wait long. Bad news, though. And a bit of confusing news. The DLC's been canceled, Sybe.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
saw that today.
It's which is too bad because the first Spider-Man game, I loved it, and I really, really liked the DLC. I thought it was worthwhile content. I had a blast playing it. And from what I understand, unfortunately, like I only played like the first 10 to 15 hours of Spider-Man 2. I wasn't able to go back and play it. Um, but from everything that I have heard, um, with somehow I have been able to avoid spoilers for Spider-Man 2. Everything I've heard is that stuff that happens in the story really, really lends itself to DLC. And not only that, you know, we reported this last year. Insomniac, unfortunately, the developers behind Spider-Man 2, they suffered a huge, huge leak where their plans for the next 10 years got released. And among those plans were not explicit, but very, very heavily implied relations to Spider-Man 2 DLC. Two examples that I would like to point out. Well, there was one that was a part of the leaks, and another one that's just in regards to the main game itself. From what I understand, the main game sets up DLC for Carnage, the villain related to Venom, and the leaks set up DLC for a character named Beetle, and not Blue Beetle. That's DC, right? That would be weird. That'd be cool. Legal problems prevent that from happening. No, it's apparently Beetle's the daughter of the villain Tombstone, who appears, I believe, definitely in the second game. I think he also appears in the first game. Or was that? Wait, was it Tombstone related to Miles Morales? Damn, I can't. My brain's not working right now. I'm sorry, but
I thought Tombstone was related to Rider, Skull Rider. What
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Okay, sorry. You might be right, man. Sorry, my brain is fried at the moment.
Or that's a town that's in that place. So that could be anything.
You talk about the movie with what's his name, Val Kilmer. Decent movie, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. There wasn't actually supposed to be DLC. Maybe, but like, why they would just say it now? But maybe I need to reread what they said. I don't think they said that it was canceled. I think they maybe just said that there wasn't going to be DLC, period. But I have to hope that maybe their plans, because I don't believe them when they said there was never going to be DLC just based on these leaks. But I have to think that whatever was going to be in that DLC is going to be a part of a future game. Because one of the leaks, what we learned from the leaks is that their plans were to have a Venom standalone game come out next year in 2025. And then we would get Wolverine, which we know has been in development for the last few years, in 2026. I have to hope that whatever was happening with Beetle and with Carnage would be in that game. And I hope that game is being made, because everything I've heard about Venom in this game is that he's awesome and people want more of him. So it'd be kind of a mistake to not do that. Not to do like how with the original Spider-Man game, there was Spider-Man, then there was Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then there was Spider-Man 2. Now do a Venom game. I'd buy it. I'd buy the crap out of it. Anyway, it's disappointing. Saib, your thoughts on this? Yeah, I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I do wonder how much of Sony screwing up the Spider-Man stuff for games, for storylines, for movies, like how much of that is like the big ego of like C-suite people making that kind of decision. Yeah, just because like we've seen that before, for a long time. It's like Spider-Man is a cash cow, but it's also something that's very unique in the world of like movies. The fact that it has always done really, really well. Like, so long as they keep their budget under control, it always makes money. So it's a question of like, well, how how and why are we seeing these shuffles here and now? That seems weird. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Do you think like maybe, I don't know how, like, what kind of internal impact these leaks have? Like, is it possible that because these leaks happened that they completely reshuffled their strategy? I have a hard time believing that, especially when it comes to something that like projects that have hundreds of millions of dollars invested in them. Like if I'm not mistaken, Spider-Man 2 had a budget of $300 million. So, and I
Right.
would imagine, it's probably not to the same extent for Venom, and maybe not to the same extent for Wolverine, but I'd still say it'd probably be in the hundreds of millions. And to just completely change track like that because of these leaks, I don't see how that's possible. Like they didn't do that for GTA 6, but I mean that's kind of
Mhm.
a different situation, so never mind about that. But I don't know. Do you think that there's a possibility that because these leaks happen, like nah, screw those DLCs, screw everybody because our stuff got leaked? I don't know what. Like any idea?
Normally that doesn't happen. Like studios don't just turn around on like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of projects and investments because a little bit of it got leaked.
Yeah, especially
Um,
now with the way
yeah,
Sony is going. Yeah, but sorry.
and I would say that I mean there were some issues here and there with the last game. There was some fan pushback to some of the choices and stuff that were being done, but it still sold incredibly well. So you got to be crazy to just be like, yeah, we're gonna walk this back now and put it in the vault for a few years. It's like it's a really dumb thing to do.
It's
I think
Spider-Man. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that Todd Howard did point this out. He's like we should never really stop making DLC for Skyrim, and like yeah, that's true. Like I honestly think that until you have another big game come out, don't stop. Like Rockstar's got it made with what how they approach GTA. It's like yeah, you can complain that there's been no new GTA, but the fact is that people spent like what $5 billion on the stupid
Yep.
add-ons,
Microtransactions.
DLC,
Yep.
and microtransactions for that game. I can't even tell you. Like of course they're not going to pump out the new one, but if you keep bringing out content and making it good, then it works. So yeah, that's a curious one. That's for sure.
I don't know. Like, obviously, Insomniac is still going to be producing stuff. We do know that Wolverine is coming. I just hope we don't have to wait until 2028 because that's apparently when Spider Man 3 was slated to come out. A
Hmm.
whole another 4 years before we get to go back to this universe because that would really suck. And I didn't finish Spider Man 2, but it's not because I didn't like it. It's just I didn't have the time. And I understand that people are like, well, there wasn't enough there to make me really like the game or make me want to play it again. For myself, I suppose you could call me biased because I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite superhero and I love the original Spider-Man game and what I have played of Spider-Man 2, even if it was more the same for some people, there was enough new stuff there that I could just spend another 100 hours and then have a blast. But
Hmm.
I I do think that the general consensus is like, yeah, maybe they could have done more, but it's not so much of a travesty. And I do think that there's enough good faith there that Insomniac can come out with Wolverine and come out with another Spider-Man game and really blow us away. And I think people are still
Yeah,
excited enough despite that. So anyway,
yeah. Cross our fingers and let's hope.
yeah, let's do that. All right, moving on to the
Yep.
next story. Speaking of crossing our fingers and hoping, more likely in vain. Um, Sorry, I can't even say the title of this game without giggling. Beyond Good and Evil 2. The
I
record.
can't. I can't. I can't hear about that game without snorting in disgust.
I know. Oh god, it's just oh the longest it holds the record for the game that has been in the longest period of development ever. I think it was announced in 2008. It is now 2024, so 16 years later. We still have no release date. Um, Man, like, gosh, you think about games like Star Citizen, that hasn't been in development as long as Beyond Good and Evil 2 has. My God. All right. Well, the reason why we're talking about it today is that they have a new creative director. I didn't know this, but I mean, I guess I should have expected this. But they have gone through a number of creative directors. First, it was a guy named Jean-Marc Geoffroy, and then he was taken over by a guy named Emile Morel, who unfortunately died in 2023 at the age of 40. And there was no cause of
Mhm.
death release. But anyway, he's finally been replaced. Um, I guess I don't know why the game has gone without a creative director for a year. Or maybe it hasn't. I don't know what the hell's going on at Ubisoft. It's just such a mess over there. But the guy that they have on the project now is a guy named Fozzie Mesmar. He was apparently attached to games like Battlefield 2042 as a lead designer head. Ugh. He was also at King as an Activision Blizzard King, as a studio design director, as well as Gameloft as a principal designer. Really?
I feel they're reaching at this point.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like they might be reaching a little bit. Like anybody who worked at King is like, those are mobile games.
Yeah, Gameloft, mobile games.
Mm-hmm.
And then Battlefield 2042, really? You're bringing on that guy to do a massive, or it should be a massive, based on what we've seen of Beyond Good and Evil 2, single player adventure? Bringing on that guy? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he individually has done good work and is responsible for the good things in something like Battlefield 2042. But to have your name, like, have that as sort of like the prominent example of your work is not like, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Because, I mean, apparently Battlefield 2042 is good now, but, when it released, it was a laughing
Mm-hmm.
stock. It was like, it
It was
had
a
a,
joke.
yeah, it was a
A
joke. It was,
bad joke,
right.
which I have railed against for so long, in the sense of like, they have the Command and Conquer universe and they do nothing with it.
Yep.
With Battlefield, like that is the dumbest. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, there was a time where that thing was huge. It was just, well, maybe not as huge as Battlefield. I don't think it was, but it was a respectable franchise. People paid money for it. It made money. Uh, I I don't know. It's just, I found it, dude. Any I I'm mainly just bringing up this story because, well, for the fact that Ubisoft has been messing up lately, but also just because I
mhm.
was so surprised. I at the moment I treat Beyond Good and Evil 2 sort of like I treat Half-Life 3. It's like it's supposedly coming, but do we really believe it's coming? It's sort of, I I don't even know. It just blows my mind that we're still even talking about it. I don't, maybe it's the fact that the reason why we're hearing about it is because Ubisoft is literally going down the tubes right now. That they're like, well, we have all these other projects. Let's see if we can finish them and make some money off of them. That's all I can
Yeah,
figure. Because at the moment, as much as I liked what they were going for initially with Beyond Good and Evil 2, I have no faith that they're going to be able to pull off what the vision of that game is. And
yeah, and
yeah,
I mean, it's getting to the point where they should have either come out with a, like, just taken the energy that they're putting into it and made a show, right? Like,
hmm,
at this point, they would have had, like, what, 2 dozen episodes out already? Or they should have just, like, again, if you're making a game and it takes you 15 years to get it out, it's like, unless it's a passion side project, like if you're a big company and you're taking 15 years to put out a game, like, that's an entire generation of people who are now playing completely different games in different genres on different machines. Like, you're crazy to think that this is a good idea.
yeah,
And like now, if you were to get the game out and then support it for 15 years, that's a completely different ball game.
yeah. It wouldn't be
And whereas,
good, but it'd be better.
oh well, I mean, Fortnite's great. Like, I mean, again, if they had stuck with making more like additions for Skyrim, would have been awesome.
Right.
Like legitimately, like we would we would see that game in a completely different shape than we see it now. Probably still with a lot of mods, but like, yeah. And so, yeah, anybody doing this, I'm honestly convinced that nobody running this project knows what they're doing. And at this point, they're just a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah. I wonder if there's like a similar scenario going on here, like it was with Skull and Bones, where they have to be working on it, but we haven't heard anything to that effect. I'm just,
Mhm.
I just don't know why it's not canceled. But maybe I don't know. I kind of, what they have shown us, I do want the game. if they can fulfill the vision that they were putting forward in some of the demos that came out in like what 2017. God, has it been since 2017?
Mhm.
Is that when we saw all those videos of like them flying out into
Mhm.
space and crap? That
Yep.
it can't be that long. I'm going to literally. Okay, no, I don't want to say that. I was going to say something controversial that might get us demonetized. No, I'm joking. Um, I'm going to look that up in a second. I'm going to lose my mind if those videos came out in 2017. Yeah, it's just I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Let's just move on. I have more faith in Star Citizen at this point. Anyway, let's just move on to our last piece of gaming news. Good news. Sai, why don't you start talking about that while I look up this
Oh,
information, so that way I can
oh,
counteract the the feelings of negativity that I think are about to flow through my brain. Go ahead.
so this is just bad news. So the Video Game
Oh, it's bad
Preservation
news.
Act.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. So the Video Game Preservation Act, um, they have been fighting a legal case, trying to make it so that they can essentially create online museums for games because that's the best way for people to see and get them. They still have a lot of success with locational museums, but there's obviously issues with funding and raising money and that kind of stuff, and so there's some limitations to it. I'm not going to go through. I'm going to try and make this real fast because the legalese on it is quite frustrating and a little difficult to catch with. Basically, what the judges thought is that the current way that this is being asked to be applied is in too much of a gray area for it to basically just become a cheap way for museums, I'm using air quotes, to basically steal a whole bunch of people's content and then create libraries that people pay to play. And the industry of game studios and professionals and in the big publishers, they hate this idea for obvious reasons because I think one of the things that they're scared of is that people will just get in the habit of playing this enormous library of older games that wouldn't make them any money, and they don't want that to happen. The people at and this is why I thoroughly believe this. I do not think that Nintendo wants you to play their old games. Like not in the way that we want to. We want to have it all on our computer and be able to scroll through the list and just play whatever we want. They don't want you playing old games, they want you playing new games. There's a handful of old games they want you to play because they own the IPs and they're making more of those. They do not want you to play older games that are more interesting or have more unique concepts that they're not putting into newer games these days. The mass produced trash, if you will. They don't want to do that, and I would say that's a major problem
Well, look, I
because it's
get it. I get it a little bit because there's so much entertainment nowadays that if you're going
Mhm.
to be spending your time on old stuff that doesn't cost as much and people aren't buying your new stuff that you're investing a whole like hundreds of millions of dollars into and you put it out and you don't get your money back, I get it. But the problem is the people that want to play these old games are, comparatively speaking, to the people that want the new and shinier product, small.
Mhm.
And by like the, by dedicating your time and your resources to preserving your these old games, the net benefit that's going to come from that is you're going to make the core fan base surrounding your brand healthier and happier. Who's not going to want to have access to all the old Pokemon games? Like, why wouldn't you want to have easier access to like Pokemon Red and Blue, so that way you can go up to Gold and Silver, Ruby, Sapphire, blah blah blah, all the way up until the front, um, as a way to get invested and fall in love with the franchise. People are still going to want to play games like Scarlet and Violet, well, maybe not Scarlet and Violet, maybe Black and White, Heart and Gold, and Soul Silver more than they do the originals because they look nicer, they play nicer. But having those old games available is just going to make people be more invested in the franchise, and it might make them want to buy the new games even more fervently. Right? Do you know what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
Side?
Yeah, no, I get that and it makes sense to me. But
Not you.
that's not what the behemoth machines that pump out slop are interested in. Those people that run and this really, really, this is like really like EA and Nintendo. They don't want you playing the IPs that they are not currently pumping out almost yearly crap for. They want you playing the very strict things, and they will go after people who do anything that's kind of like different or is offering something that they are not offering. It's why Nintendo goes so hard after people making ROMs of like ancient games that people want to play but nobody's offering them for. And that's a travesty. And I think 100% that if you are not publishing a game, an IP, if you're not making that available for people to buy, you're a problem. like that's a major problem. That's akin to like high levels of censorship, and I frankly am disgusted with it. I hate that kind of censorship. I hate that kind of idea that the big mega companies, they know what's really going on and they can make it's like I no, I don't want that. I think gaming needs to be highly competitive, and it is thanks to places like Steam. So I mean, Steam's got its own problems, and some of the other markets have their problems, but it really is about like pushing the best stuff to the forefront. We just need gamers to be a little bit more like vocal in their support of this stuff. Ultimately, I think we're going to see a die off of old games that are just erased from memory, that aren't going to be available at all in the future.
Yeah.
And that's very, very sad. But I think what the new generation of people growing up playing games right now, and the kind of like the older ones from our generation, we're really going to like that's going to be a change around when those people are making laws and in government. They're going to be like, yeah, I remember when such and such a big company destroyed the thing that I loved and deleted all my saves. And now you're in here saying, hey, we want to do that again to this video game over here. And it's just like, so like that one scene from The Simpsons where the cop chasing the World War II war criminal, was it, I think that was I'm pretty sure this was The Simpsons. And he's like, well, I can buy off as many judges as I need to. And he gets into the car, and the police officer, like, you see him like remembering how his family were running away from the bad guys, and they were getting eaten by dogs, and he's like, I'll take care of him. And he closes the police door and he drives him off. And that guy's never going to see the inside of a jail at that point. He's going to see a different box. And that's what I think, that's what's going to go through the heads of people in the future when they go, oh yeah, I remember Fortnite. Yeah, I played Fortnite every day of my childhood until it got ripped off of line by some mega corporation that came in and was like, well, this is ours now. We're going to make it, terrible. And Fortnite's not the best game, but I'm just using it as the example of what the current kids are playing, right? And they're going to go, I remember that. And now I'm the person who's making the laws, so you're going to not have that happen again. And they're going to rake them through the coals. I think that's what's going to happen in the future. I could be wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think the next generation will kind of like be around to save game, because this current generation that's in these places, that are these judges, that are making these laws, they don't even understand the concepts. They still think video games are like, Mario Kart, like, because that was their last interaction with it when, 30 years ago when they were in their 50s, right? Like, and it's stuff like that where it's just like, right, these people don't know anything. That's making these laws, it's enforcing these laws. The lawyers are making like really good arguments, but then the judge is like, well, why can't they just plug in the old disc? It's like,
Well, I mean, no, it's not the disc that's the problem. It's the console running it, and the
yeah,
companies that produced it. Well, I mean, like they got it enough to the point that like they allow emulators. It's just certain companies
yeah,
are quite militant about the way certain people use emulators, and looking at you, Nintendo, as well
yeah.
as making sure that those games are as widely available as they can be, while of course abiding by certain legal strictures, which I think can be done. It's just
Mhm.
people, like you said, people just aren't, especially the people that have no experience with games, they aren't well versed on the subject. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like I'll have to join along Ross Scott at some point and try to make an effort in trying to preserve old video games, which is kind of like what I try to do on my personal YouTube channel myself. I try to highlight older games that people have never heard of, games that are very difficult to access, that are some of the greatest games ever made,
Hmm.
but people just can't access them. Like Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, one of the greatest games ever made, arguably the top 5 horror games ever made. You can't play it unless you have a GameCube and an original copy of the game, of which only 500,000 copies have sold. Which, by the way, my wife owns one of those copies because she's amazing. So I'm
Yeah.
okay, but a lot of other people can't. But there's other games like Terranigma is one of the greatest games ever made, released on the SNES. There's no way to get it. Um, there's another game I want to cover coming up recently. Probably one of the greatest games ever released on the Nintendo 3DS. A game called Strange Journey from the Shin Megami Tensei series. Unless you have a 3DS and a copy of the game, you can't play it. So
Right.
if you respect the artistry, the artistic side of games, if you recognize them as art and capable of high art, is absolutely necessary for the sake of the medium and for the advancement of the medium, that people can interact with these archetypal works of art. And we just got to find a way to do that. I have to hope that over the next several years, knowledge of this technology will get to the point where, old judges are replaced by newer judges, people who understand how this stuff works, and we can eventually make positive change. And shout out again to Ross Scott for his work doing this, but at the moment is looking quite dire. But I choose to hope, and I'll continue to work to bring people's attention to old games and see what I can do to, make people want to play them and advance the artistic medium. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to hit the like button on this video, because when you do that, it not only tells the YouTube algorithm that this video is worth watching, but all the other videos on the Triple S League channel are worth watching. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts on any or all the stuff that Simon and I talked about today. Side, thanks, man, as always. Anything you want
Hmm.
to say before we're done?
We're working on some new stuff. It's like preliminary stuff. We're working real hard on a lot of stuff right now. So just we always appreciate the people who've stuck with us for so long. Thanks. And we are working on new stuff.
Yeah.
I've got some projects in the go that will hopefully result in a lot more content sooner. So
Nice. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I echo what you just said. And you guys can follow me on all the regular forms of social media. Just have Max Derrat. I just put a new video today. By today, I mean Saturday, because we're recording this on Saturday. I delve into all the mysteries of Silent Hill 2, the old mysteries, as well as some of the new mysteries that are introduced in the remake. If you want to check that out, it's nearly half an hour long, so I tried to be as thorough as I could. It's over there. Anyways, guys, until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.
goodbye.